for your family. It's your friendly neighborhood life coach, Sayen Gates. I hope that you're having a wonderful day, that you're having a great October. It does not feel like the end of the year right now, but I guess we can say we're almost to New Year's, but we're not that far from Christmas. You know, just the lovely in between. But before we get into all that, I would like to say hi. If you're new here, my name is Sayen Gates. I am a shadow life coach. That means I am a shadow work coach that helps you deconstruct and reconstruct how you think and feel about your environment as well as yourself. My goal is to make sure that I can bring more awareness to not only your authentic self, but make sure that you understand that everything that we go through is a process. So if you're just now beginning your spiritual journey, I'm glad that you're here. If you've been on this journey for a while, sup OGs. I love how we're thriving out here in these streets. So without further ado, let's get on for today. So I know we've recently had a slight hiatus. I'm just coming back from Tampa from my book launch for Breaking the Silence of Voices of Survivors, Volume 3. This book retells the accounts of what happened to me growing up and what it means to be worthy still. If you would like to purchase that book, it's not just me, it's 19 other authors, and all of us put literally our heart and soul in this book. So if you would like to purchase the book, it is available on Amazon. And I'm also having it on my website, which is www.shadowcornerlifecoaching.com in the book section of my website. And there's also another book there as well that I was in called The Perspectives on Cancer, Strength and Heal, Hope, and Resilience, where I talk about my aunt who has stage 4 lung cancer and how me and my mother were taking care of her and also going through our own life changes. All of us have a story. So I believe that with these stories and these two books, you'll get an insight and a new perspective or even a different perspective on what it's like to actually go through the journey in real time. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and jump into our guest so that way we can get this party started. On today's, breaking my brain. All right. Let's get it here. Let's see how we're going to do this. Okay. On today's episode of Shadow Corner, we're diving deep into the power of transformation that comes with the midlife. Now, for those of you of gorgeous age of 40 and above, I know that it's not easy dealing with your older children. So I think this is very needed amongst, because we've already broadened the spectrum on sex, we broadened the spectrum about mental health. Now we're getting into the grit of after your 30s and after you get to that point where you're pretty comfortable in life. So my guest, Carla Wainwright, is a holistic wellness coach and a sexual awakening facilitator and midlife alchemist. Carla supports women over 40 in reclaiming their energy and balancing their hormones and reconnecting with their pleasure and validity. Through her powerful blend of metabolic health strategies, nervous system healing, as well as feminine embodiment practices, she helps women to rediscover what it means to live vibrantly and authentically. With a background in biology, homeopathy, which is very interesting because that is something that I am studying currently in my alternative medicine class. But we will talk about that on another episode. Let's see. So that way I can make sure I stay on track. Over 2 decades of experience in healing arts, Carla beautifully bridges science with sacred wisdom. She believes that midlife isn't the ending, it's a rite of passage and a portal to deeper clarity and creativity and purpose. Whether through retreats, group programs, or one on one coaching, Carla guides women to embrace this season of life with grace and courage and radiant self expression. So get ready to explore what it means to truly awaken from your power. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Carla Wainwright. How are we doing, Shirley?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I am happy you are here because you studied like something that we are talking about in my classes for homeopathy, and I am very intrigued. But we're not going to go deeper in that just yet.
Okay, anytime though.
Yes, anytime. But we're going to go ahead and just steer forward. So, Carla, welcome to Shadow Corner. For those of you that are new with your work, how would you describe what it means to be a midlife alchemist?
Mm-hmm. So it's the term that it's not, of course, an official title, but it's the term that I've given myself. So what I love about the idea of being a midlife alchemist. So first of all, alchemy is this practice of turning base metals into gold. So in medieval times, probably before that, people tried to create gold out of tin or lead or whatever it was. I don't think they were super successful, but the idea is that you take something raw and you transform it into something amazing. And, midlife is, for many women, can be a really challenging time. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But it can be a really difficult time for a lot of women because our hormones are changing. And because of that, there's so many effects that happen to the body and the brain and all of that. And many women, of course, because we also have this like youth obsessed culture, really feel like their best years are behind them and they don't really have much to look forward to. And so we're really conditioned, especially as women, to see aging as a decline. But I see it exactly as the opposite. I think that we step into the most powerful time of our life, especially postmenopausally. So my job as a midlife alchemist is to take all of, those negative feelings, experiences, all of the chaos that can happen in midlife and help a woman transform that into literally the gold, stepping into that most powerful and radiant time.
Okay, so do you feel like when you hit the age of 50 and 40 that, because I get it what you mean by around that time you're looking as like the fountain of youth because you think your good years are behind you, like you said. So do you feel like that is just mainstream because of like youthful perspectives, or is it just like societal pressure? Is that one of those things that you think it is, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly we live in a hyper youth and youth obsessed culture in our societies. If you think about the multi-billion-dollar industry of makeup and plastic surgery and all of those things, and I'm not dissing that. Like, everybody should make their own choice about what's best for them. But a lot of money is spent on making women feel bad about how they look and then providing, what they term as solutions. So we're really conditioned from a young age to fear aging and feel like, our 20s are going to be our best years. And then everything else is a decline from that. I think there's also another piece to it. I think, honestly, there's a real patriarchal piece around. I think that societies have known forever, like hundreds, thousands of years, that women become more powerful as we age, that we become really the wise woman. And there's a lot of fear around that. So it serves that kind of patriarchal, oppressive ideology to keep women feeling small, to keep women feeling like their best years are behind them and that there is no power in aging, right? So I think that there's like a combination of things. So, it is definitely something that's very conditioned in us from a young age, and we really have to work hard to push against it, because those imprints that we get when we're younger, they're really hard. I mean, I'm sure in the work that you do, these, these belief systems that we have, they're really hard to shift. They're not impossible to shift 100%, but these things that we kind of grow up with, and they're largely not our own, they come from, family or society or all of these things, they really do shape the way we see the world. And so, how can we actually put a different lens on so that we see it from the way that's the most empowering and beneficial to us?
And I know many people fear midlife as a time of decline, but yes, and I know you've reframed it as a period of transformation. Can you elaborate that more on that?
Yeah. So, I don't think that there's any biological accident. So women on average live about over 40% of their lives after they stop bleeding, after they stop menstruating, right? So like, why would that be? Right. So there's this whole idea of like the grandmother hypothesis of how important women are as they age in terms of the nurturing, the connection, the wisdom that they impart on the younger generations, the care, all of those pieces. And so the transformation is really, again, going back to this thread of seeing it as a portal into something that's really, really powerful. So, of course, our bodies are changing. We have declining hormones, declining estrogen and progesterone. Actually, what happens is we lose what's called like this neuroprotective armor. So suddenly we may have more brain fog. We can't remember things. We gain weight. There's all of these things that are happening in our bodies. But what happens, of course, on the other side of that is that some of the things that are also happening in our brains is that we start to care less about validation in terms of, needing everybody to approve of us and everybody having to like us. And in many ways, that can be incredibly liberating because as we get older, it's like, actually, I know who I am. I would love for you to like me. But if you don't, it's actually okay. And I think that's like another biological shift that happens. But the transformation is really being able to move through that portal of casting off, the maiden, the mother, if we're looking at archetypes, and coming into the crone, which is the wise woman, and embracing that and the power that comes with that. So it is really a rite of passage, one that isn't really very celebrated, but I think one that really should be because, as we age, we really do step into that wisest, most potent part of ourselves.
Do you feel like the maid and mother and chrome are rotating even through youth years too? Because I noticed that a lot of people, when they go into the state of elevation, what ends up happening is that they get this sense of like they've been here before, they know a lot more, not more than who they're going to become like 30 years from now, but enough to where they know what to avoid and what not to avoid. So do you feel like through every situation, through every pivotal moment, does that maiden and chrome exist amongst that fluidity, or is that like a whole different shift and it's only reserved for like when you get older and you have all this wisdom?
Yeah. So I completely agree with you that, in every situation, I mean, we are cyclical beings. And so again, like with this very, we're living in a world that very much has a very masculine mindset and overlay. And there's lots of positive things about that, but there's also things that we miss. So if we think of it in linear terms, like, oh, maiden is only when I'm, up until age 18, and then mother is whatever it is, and then crone, and it's this linear timeline, we miss the fact that actually we're moving in cycles all the time. So I love that you asked this question. Like for me, I really see the experience that we have as women, they're like spirals, right? And so we may move in that spiral, in that circle through the maiden, mother, and crone, in a situation like you said, or maybe it's in a period of life where we could be any age and that's happening. And then we continue on that spiral so that we repeat through those different experiences of the triple goddess, but they become deeper. And the effect is always, like, it's like we're moving into this vortex where, yes, we're repeating, but at the same time, the layers are deepening, and the opportunity of what you get from it also deepens. And there is also then, of course, the overlay that, yes, like from a biological perspective, the maiden, mother, crone also has that continuum in terms of like where we are biologically, like, or rather chronologically. But you're absolutely right. there are all of these cyclical systems around us all the time. And so nothing is ever linear.
Okay. And I know that we're talking about like in general, but how did your own personal journey influence the way you guide women now? Because I know you've had to have your own story attached to this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, my own story, I really embarked upon a healing journey in my 20s to heal from sexual trauma. And I had some really profound experiences, one with homeopathy, which I know we're going to talk about, maybe not today, but hopefully another time.
Yes.
And then I also, I had experienced it also with a yoga class in terms of reconnecting into my body, and really then kind of casting away my life. I had a professional job as a wildlife biologist, and really embarking on this healing journey when I discovered being able to reconnect with just feeling and what I feel like is the divine feminine within me. And this embarked me on a journey of exploring tantra and sexual healing to heal my own sexual trauma, and rediscovering and reawakening what I term like the creatrix power. So that is, the creatrix energy is that generative energy, your sexual life force energy that everybody has, but particularly for women, it's often dormant, or it's been suppressed, or put away some because of trauma or experiences, all of those things. So in my own journey, I just began to study this more and more, and then starting to work with women who may not have had the same story as me, because of course our stories are all different, but really seeing the power in accessing this sexual healing energy and using it as a healing tool, and using it as really like that life force energy that propels you forward in all the various aspects of your life. So I was doing this work. And then when I hit into my mid 40s, and I was very much in the throes of perimenopause, I began to have my own struggles just navigating all of that, and feeling like it was just a very challenging time, and not the things that I was doing weren't necessarily working. And so even though I had an established practice and was taking really good care of myself, I definitely could tell that there were things that needed to shift. And so this is when I started to really dive more into, when I kind of went back to my science roots of coming back into the metabolic piece, understanding that that needed to be supported. So I have this term, I call it the sacred metabolism. And so we have to take care of course, the physical body, and we have to tend to the energetic body. And the sacred metabolism is like your energy systems on both sides. So my own journey is really kind of coming full circle, and then having, through my own lived experience of going through that portal of midlife, and now I'm over on the other side of menopause, just a couple of years, and recognizing that, when women are supported in that way through the sacred metabolism, especially really honoring the feminine energy, we can step into that place of power, of our truest authentic selves and our wisdom selves, right? But we have to support a woman in that transition, because if we just look at what society's doing, that's not really happening.
Yeah, it's not. What's the best way to say this without being a butt? It's not exactly ideal. So I'm also thinking it also in the terms of how women are treated once they give birth, because I'm also a doula. So when I think about how the difference in cultures with how they treat women during that time period, I feel like that Western culture is like, it's at the curve, but it doesn't want to take the plunge.
Mm.
And it makes it hard to be able to say that, hey, I'm proud to be part of this community, but it's like a very sticky situation in that. Because like when you think about, for example, Asian culture, they have a 5-day period or a 7-day period where they replenish the mother, they replenish the husband, and then they you have midwives that help take care of the baby. So it's like we don't have that here. So the point, I know it's like not talking about midlife, but it was like when I think about the difference in cultures and how we treat women now and on our side of the fence, it makes me question is like if we can do so much more for us, right? So what are some common misconceptions about women's health and validity after 40 that you wish more people would understand, since we're going deep into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to acknowledge and absolutely agree with you that, just sort of the honoring of women through these huge rites of passage, menstruation being a big one. Girls are embarrassed that they have their period. It's not a celebration. It's like, and then there's childbirth and not giving women the space and the nurturing, as you just said, and then of course midlife. So it's kind of a cycle that's repeated over and over again. So I think there's a massive opportunity for that to shift. So some of the misconceptions, there's a lot of them. So I guess like
the top 3.
Oh my God. Okay. The top 3.
Minimize as much as you can in the top 3.
Let me think
that
here.
way it's like we're not going on a tangent, even though I love tangents.
Yes, I will.
So give me top 3 that you feel like is like the most important if you can't have all of them.
Yes. Okay. So I think one huge misconception is that a woman's sex life is over or diminished or going to be, kind of like a shadow of what it used to be.
Yes.
That is absolutely not true. Now, it is true that your hormones change and desire can change, but that doesn't mean that pleasure changes. That doesn't mean that your sex life can't be great. There's so many women, 60, 70, 80 having the best sex of their lives. So it's not a foregone conclusion. So I really wish women knew that, because again, that buys into this narrative. I'm sure you've heard this, like, oh, women peak sexually at like 30 or 35. Like, what does that mean?
I don't know.
So like then 35 is over and then it's all downhill from there. Like that's just garbage. So I really wish women would cast that one off. Another misconception. Yeah, I think the big misconception is really all about decline. So whether it's decline in your value in society, decline in your sex life, decline in just how you feel about yourself, it really all ties up into that. Like those are all misconceptions, and they're all belief systems that absolutely can be shattered and pushed through, and the narrative changed on that. I know those are two. It's like one wrapped into a whole bunch of things. It's the decline piece that I think is the biggest misconception.
Because we see, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that part. I was like, because I feel very strongly about this. We see, like, for example, my mom, she's like in her 60s, but she does not look like she's 60 at all. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure that she could probably pull any man still. So I don't believe the we're decline or we reach our peak at 35. I feel like depending on how you take care of your body, and then, like, this is something that's been proven through alternative medicine. If you take care of your body will take care of you in the functions in which you allow it to. So when we think about aging, we shouldn't think about it as like, oh, we are now on a walker, we're just barely running, we can't do nothing. We have to think about it like, how did we take care of our body once we hit the age of 30? Because 30 hits different in so many ways, just like 50 hits different. So it's like, I know, like, I'm 34 and I've already felt like my knees and back are trying to disown me as we speak. Anytime I've been to poke a patient, I'm like, yeah, not old, but it's like, how did I take care of my body up until this point? Well, I ate what I wanted, and then when I did at 1.8 healthy, I saw the difference. But then the decline went back to stress and oxidative stress, not being able to have time to meal prep, and the end result, you end up gaining weight, and you end up. So it's like, I don't beat myself up; I give myself grace on that.
Yeah.
So when we think about aging in that regard, we need to think about like how we take care of our bodies from this point forward. There's never too late to restart. So
It's never too late. You're absolutely right.
Continue. I need my third. And drum roll. The third and final is.
Oh, you're asking me? What's the third and final? Okay, sorry.
I was giving you drum roll. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. Why am I mind going blank here? So third and final would be
misconception about women's health and validity after 40 that you wish more people understood.
Yeah. I still think it comes all back to decline. I know I keep harping on this, but it's just like it's such a massive overlay for women. And I think, it even just comes down into just the strength and vitality of our bodies, right? Like you were just talking about your mom and, how it sounds like she's a really vital human being and taking care of herself. And so, maybe you remember probably when you were a teenager and you thought about a woman in her 50s and you probably thought she was an old lady. No, maybe that's what I did, but I'm a little bit older than you.
No, you get slapped for that. Absolutely not. That is a setup on God.
Good. Well, I'm really glad. But if I'd ask women my age what they thought of women who are now the age that they're at, they are like, the picture that they had is very different. Right. And so, the human body is remarkable and it is resilient and it is always striving to move into balance. And so, I think with the right care and attention, our bodies can also be exactly what they want them to be, what we want them to be.
Okay. So, for women who feel disconnected from their pleasure or body, where's a gentle place to begin that reconnection?
Yeah, so pleasure is so important, especially as we move through this transition. And the reason for that is that because we have these change in hormones, stress affects us so much more. Our capacity to deal with stressful things changes because we don't have those protective effects of estrogen and progesterone. This is often why trauma that we experienced when we were younger resurfaces at this age, because we get stuck in a stress and a trauma response continually because we don't have as much estrogen and progesterone. And so the antidote to all of that extra cortisol, all of that extra stress, is really pleasure. But interestingly, women are hardwired to choose stress over pleasure. So we have to be really conscious about it. And I think that there's a biological reason for that. I mean, we wouldn't have made it this far in humanity if we didn't pay attention to things that were threats, right? We had to pay attention to things that were threatening. So of course we would choose the threat over pleasure. But we live in a modern age where things are stressful all the time, like continually, way more than it ever was for our ancestors way back. So because of that, we're constantly being bathed in cortisol and being in a fight or flight response. But we're humans and we can make conscious choice. This is the incredible thing about being a human being. So you can choose pleasure over stress. The first thing is to recognize that you'll have a tendency to always pick the stressful thing and then notice that. Can you make another choice in the moment? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. The other thing you can do is really be conscious about bringing in more pleasure into your life. I'm sure most women would agree they have a big pleasure deficit in their lives. Like there's moments of it, but we could all use more. And so I always encourage women to start with can you make sure you have 5 moments in your day, and they could be 30-second moments of pleasure. And I love to tie it to the senses. So, lingering on something that maybe it's something in nature and you look at it, it makes you happy. Listening to a song that you like, touching a fabric or something, or petting your cat, and that feels really nice. Something that smells wonderful, a beautiful taste. So can you bring in those moments? Because what happens is that in our bodies, biochemically, we create oxytocin, and oxytocin begins to lower cortisol. When cortisol goes down, we're more insulin sensitive, so our blood sugars are more regulated, and our sex hormones function better, as well as our thyroid hormones, so we have better energy. So oxytocin and pleasure is really the antidote to all of this crazy stress that's going on. And you don't have to be in midlife to use this hack. It can be for anybody, but it becomes more and more important at this phase in our life because stress affects us so much more deeply.
Okay, so I know you said using all the senses to connect with yourself wholly. So, what role does your nervous system play in your midlife awakening process? Is it just like waiting on you to finish off, or like how does that work?
Sorry, is the nervous system waiting for, I just want to make sure I understand your
Oh,
question.
is the nervous system waiting for the whole body to sync up before it's like, all right, we can jump in now? Or is it just like an automatic, okay, so we're doing this, let's go?
Yeah, so the nervous system, it feels often like it has a mind of its own, doesn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't think your way out of stress, right? That big giant prefrontal cortex, it's awesome. It does a lot of really cool stuff. But the ancient part of your brain that is, evolved so much earlier on really runs the show, right? So if the body is perceiving threats or stress in any way, the mind is not going to be able to be very rational about all of that. So we have to, if we know that, then it's like, what are the things we can do to soothe the nervous system? So pleasure is a really big one. Connecting slowly to your breath is another one. Pausing, just taking moments. Like, I think more and more everybody's in this goldfish mentality. They're glued to their phones. They're not really just taking just a few moments to simply be. Those things are also really, really important. There are many, many things you can do to support your nervous system, but you have to be intentional about it. So that's where the thinking part of the brain comes in. It's like, oh, I need to just support my nervous system. So I'm going to plan to do a few of these things in my day. And then when you offer that to your nervous system, then the nervous system kind of takes care of the next piece. It begins to drop down in more into a parasympathetic state. And then everything like from there just becomes a big, complete different shift for you. But you can't have sit down with your nervous system and have a stern talk and say, well, smarten up. I want you more in the parasympathetic state. It doesn't work like that.
Okay. All right. So I know you call yourself the Midlife Alchemist. What does alchemy look like every day in your life? Like, I know that you help women every day. So, and then also, how do you embody the practice that you help? How do you embody the practices that you give other women in their inner radiance and give them confidence?
Yeah. So I certainly try. It's imperfect, but I do try to live what I teach. And so, my day, like my own inner alchemy, my midlife alchemy, um, very much revolves around supporting my nervous system. So I definitely make sure I spend time outside every single day. I live in Northern Canada, so I like to spend as much time barefoot outside as possible. But now we're kind of like end October. Those days are coming to an end, but I do try to do that as much as possible. And really drop into the earth. Like I have a very strong earth energy and divine feminine practice of connecting to nature. So that is a big piece. And that is a big piece of what I do with the women that I work with. For many women, that's like completely foreign. They haven't ever done that. But when they start to learn those practices, there's like a remembrance that awakens. Like we all have the inner knowing of that, but we just may not in this particular moment or lifetime remember. Right. So that's a big part of it. I have a number of like body-based practices and breathwork practices that I do. And just really trying to take care of myself and have as many oxytocin pleasure-filled moments in my day as possible. Like that's a really, really big one.
Awesome. So after all that we've talked about and everything we've reflected on, what has midlife taught you about embracing the change rather than resisting it?
Well, you know what they say, what we resist persists.
Right.
So if you can't beat them, join them. But yeah, it's like, And in many ways, resistance, okay, I'm just gonna like throw these out. Like resistance is futile, right? You're gonna age. It's happening. This is gonna happen. So what do you choose? Do you choose to just kind of stay in the discomfort of all of that and the negative mindset and to see this as like, it's just a descent into, I've lost all my best years? Or can you reframe that and choose to see that the older version of yourself? Like for me, this is a big one. I love picturing my 90-year-old self like doing awesome stuff. And I see her thanking me for everything that I'm choosing to do today. Like my future self is thanking me. So, I think it really comes down to, it's like, what do you choose? Now, it doesn't mean it's easy to do all the steps to make that choice, but the choice and the vision of that is really so, so vital. And, imagine if women around the world just knew that they were becoming like more vibrant, more powerful, wiser, have so much to contribute to their families, communities, society, and they just like kept looking forward to what's coming next. Just imagine the incredible ripple effect that would have in the world. It'd be pretty amazing.
It would be. Okay, so if a listener is standing on the edge of transformation, like they hear what you're saying, but they're still having like second thoughts and they're afraid to step through that portal, what's message would you offer them, and how can they find you or connect with you?
So I actually have this amazing free guide. It's called the Vibrancy Guide, and it has super practical, doable, effective action steps that a woman can take right away. So these would be the things that I would recommend to a client that I'd work with. And just putting those in place is going to start to create the momentum. It's all about one step creates the next step, creates the next step. So if you want to feel more energized, balanced, you're ready to, step into that most vibrant version of yourself, just go to vibrancyreset.com. And that's also going to take you to my website, and you're going to find everything about me there.
Okay, sweet. And I have one last question, and I ask this to all my guests before I let them go. If you could give advice to yourself, whether it be younger, older, mid, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, I just see that younger version of myself in my late teens or early 20s who just felt so lost and so unhappy. And I would just want to give her a big hug and just tell her that she's worthy and she's enough exactly as she is.
I love that. Because I asked this question because I realized that when we get to the point of where we're I call it going to the process of being a sage, not like having the sage title, but we're in the process of becoming a master. We sometimes don't look back at the accolades that we have. We think of them as like pebbles on a road that we're walking on. Mm-hmm. But we don't pick them up and say, oh, okay, so this is something that I actually did. So when I ask these questions, I want to make sure that that audience, that you understand that these are real people. They have gone through real things. They are authentic in their rights and what they've done. They've either went years doing this, or they've gone through enough to where they know that they're qualified. So if they can do it, then so can you. And there's a lot more that Ms. Carla has to teach us, but we are at the top of our hour and we cannot kidnap her any farther. So Ms. Carla, we really do appreciate you coming on the show. We will have you back soon because we really do need to talk about the homeopathy. I'm very intrigued. But we're very gracious to having you on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sayen. I'm really so happy to have been here. Thanks.
No problem. We'll see you soon. All righty, good people. So let's wrap this up in situation. I understand that society has you thinking that once you turn a certain age, or once you get to a certain pinnacle, that you are either of less worth or no worth at all. But according to Ms. Carla, and also through what we know spiritually, that is not the case. you have to start thinking, especially in us as women, that we are fine wine. Some wine takes years to age because it makes sure that it has a richer flavor. So for some people, your flavor may not be their profile, and you have to accept that. And you don't have to also go through the societal pressures that says that when you turn a certain age, you're old. There's a lot of people, and I do mean a lot of women specifically, that when you ask them their age, even though you're not supposed to do that anyway, when you ask them their age, you'll never know it, or you'll never realize it, because they don't show what they've been through. So I want you to take that in consideration. Take care of yourself. Understand that how you take care of your body now, this is for younger. How you take care of your body now is exactly how you're going to end up taking care of it further on down the road. And your future self will thank you for all the choices that you made today. I'm glad that I was able to see you guys today. We'll be back here tomorrow recording with another young lady, Miss Lillian Loom. She will be talking to us about selfless giving, as well as selfless service. But as always, love to see you guys. Love to be here. And we are out of here.